Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Tats, and yeah, if you guys remember, just this is a random week. If you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, I did Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton Johnny Depp, film, and I thought about it too. It's like, yeah, I kind of like to go and look into some other films that they had done since I've already, I did Sleepy Hollow, I did Sweeney Todd, I did Dark Shadows. So why not go ahead and continue on? We'll get a couple other Tim Burton films out of the way. The one that I want to talk about today is from 1994, and this is kind of more of like a drama comedy biopic, but we're talking about Ed Wood. So I don't think I really need to go into too much detail. Sorry, just my fingers kind of messed up. So I don't think I really need to go into too much detail about who Ed Wood is. Classic film director. Consider one of the worst film directors of all time, and made Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is considered one of the worst films of all time. But even still, like that movie, definitely it has its fans, and it's definitely become a cult classic. And there are people who love Plan 9 from Outer Space. Me personally, when I try to watch Plan 9 from Outer Space, I can't really watch it unless I'm watching like Netflix on it, or not Netflix, but Riff Tracks on it. It's like I kind of prefer having Mike Nelson, Kevin Murphy, and Bill Corbett, doing their jokes and stuff over it. So that's just me personally. But anyway, so the movie is it's meant to be kind of a biopic about the director Ed Wood, and Johnny Depp plays Ed Wood, and you have a really good all-star cast. You got Sarah Jessica Parker there playing Dolores Fuller. You have Martin Landau, the late great Martin Landau, playing Bela Lugosi. Yeah, that's Sarah Jessica Parker there. Bill Murray playing Buddy Breckenridge, and oh my God, you have so many other name actors in this movie. You have let's see who else is in here. Patricia Arquette is in here. Um, oh God, who all am I forgetting? George the Animal Steele plays Tor Johnson. Lisa Marie, who she was Tim Burton's girlfriend at the time, but you also would remember her from she had like a little bit part in Lord of Salem. She had a little bit part in Silent Night, the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. She was in Dead and Buried. She was a girl who got her head smashed in with the rock, and then they turn around and bring her back to life. And stuff. So yeah. So you got like a pretty big size cast in this film, and the movie is for one thing though, it's like one thing that I thought was a really great choice was that Tim Burton shot the film in black and white, and even though Rick Baker did great special effects, and say like this movie's where is it? Yeah, winner of 2 Academy Awards. One for Martin Landau for Best Supporting Actor for playing Bela Lugosi, which he does phenomenally in this movie, but also too for Rick Baker for the special, his makeup effects and everything. But the movie really follows Ed Wood like trying to get his way into the film industry, and even though he did other films in between, the movie really tries to focus on. It's almost like a 3 act structure, in the sense that the first act of the movie is the making of Glenn or Glenda, and then the second act of the movie is the making of Bride of the Monster, and then the third act of the movie is making Plan 9 from Outer Space. And but even though he had made other films in between, then he had written and or directed other films. Like there was Jailbait with Dolores Fuller and Steve Reeves, who had played Hercules in a number of movies. Then I'm trying to remember if The Violent Years, which Wood didn't direct it, but he wrote it. I think that might have been between Bride of the Monster and Plan 9. Might have been. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I don't have all the timelines sitting here with me, but anyway, but yeah, just this is such a good movie, and you know, um, a big, huge part of the film really does focus on the friendship and the relationship between, Johnny Depp playing Ed Wood and Martin Landau playing Bela Lugosi. That is a huge part of the film, and both of these actors, they are so good in their roles. And I know I'm biased. I like Johnny Depp. I think Johnny Depp's a good actor and stuff, but just I think the two of them had really good chemistry together, and this film is a lot of fun, and The thing is like, if you don't mind Johnny Depp's sense of humor, which I don't personally, I like his sense of humor, but if you don't mind his sense of humor, like he's really, really funny. It's just the voice that, as far as I know, I don't think Ed Wood sounded the real Ed Wood. I'm trying to remember. I don't think the real Ed Wood sounded the way Johnny Depp does in this movie because Johnny Depp has this, he's, like, actors, where are my actors? He's just got a funny way of talking, it's like, and the one thing that's always like, is whenever he's shooting a movie and stuff, he's always saying, cut, print it. That was perfect. It just, but one thing that's kind of fun is the way that Depp plays Ed Wood. He plays him with such enthusiasm that, and it's kind of like what Tim Burton said, like in the commentary, what they say in the special features was like, you almost root for him to make a bad movie. But the thing about, the thing was like, he almost seemed like the way Depp played Ed Wood was like, he was a guy who was like more like fantasizing about directing a movie than rather actually directing a movie. It's like he's just kind of more, entertaining himself and everything rather than doing, the real work a film director would do. And then, of course, there was the whole thing about Ed Wood being a transvestite, which the movie does not shy away from, but, it is in the film. But the way they approach it, that is one thing that I really, really, like about the way they tried to do films like this back in the 80s and the 90s, TV shows too, back in the 80s and the 90s. They knew that, subjects like that were at the time, they were taboo subjects and, a lot of people had issues dealing with it. But, like I remember this movie, by taking it and kind of doing a more lighthearted approach, excuse me, to transvestism, if that's even a word, transvestites, by taking a little bit more of a lighthearted, more of a comedic approach and things like that, it makes it, it takes the edge off of it. It's like nowadays, it's like they don't even try to, to understand that some people can be uncomfortable with certain situations. They just throw it in your face and tell you, screw you, deal with it, be comfortable with it, Whereas like one thing, I remember one thing that really honestly like started to get people to loosen up about homosexuality back in the late 80s and the early 90s was the show The Kids in the Hall. Because you had Scott Thompson on the show who was openly gay. He was, he was one of the performers on the show, writer and an actor and stuff on the show. But the thing was, and yes, he did a lot of gay content, but the way he approached it, he showed off he showed off the chemistry that he had with the other actors, his charm, his intellect, and his ability to be a chameleon and be a performer and things like this. And people ended up loving it. And it made people, even people who are like, what, that kind of lifestyle, it's not for me. But you know what? I like him. And, it's like, it got people to start to ease up about it. And, but nowadays it's like, they're like, we don't care if you like it or not, throw it in your face and deal with it. You don't like it, screw you. It's like, it's like, man. And that was the thing about like, with this movie and transvestites, was that, this movie does try to be a little bit more sympathetic. I'm sure somebody probably nowadays would find this movie completely offensive. But at the time, it's like, this was trying to, be a little bit more lighthearted about it and, have a little bit more of a, to take it seriously, but do have a little bit of a comedic approach to it just to kind of, take the edge off and make it easier for people to deal with. But yeah, but anyway, I got off tangent there, but yeah, this movie is so good. And, all the acting is really good in here. The thing is that, this was kind of an interesting, situation, how Tim Burton ended up actually directing this movie because the way I understood it was that originally the script written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski, originally they wrote the script and it was going to be directed by Michael Lehman. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. The director of Heathers. And like they gave him the script and apparently he was going to originally direct it. And he was just like, okay, we're going to do this kind of, it's going to be low budget and stuff. They didn't think like this was ever going to be any kind of like a big commercial movie. So they were sitting there thinking to themselves, oh, okay, well, we'll just, we'll do a kind of low budget, kind of like almost 16 millimeter. I think they said 16 millimeter. But, they were going to do it really low budget and kind of make it, a more smaller film, kind of more independent like and all that. And then they approached Tim Burton see if maybe they could bring him on as a producer. And apparently, the way I understand it is as soon as Tim Burton got the script and he read it, and this was just a first draft script, they hadn't even done any rewrites on it yet. But as soon as Tim Burton read the script, he's like, I'm doing this. So it's like, you kind of feel bad that Michael Lehman, you kind of feel bad that he kind of got, pushed out of the director's chair. But even though he is still on here as a producer of the film and stuff. So it's like, I don't think that they cut him out entirely. But yeah, the way I understood it, though, was like, as soon as Tim Burton read the script, he was like, I'm doing this. And, I want this movie. I'm going to be the one to do this. And I even remember recently reading another article about Tim Burton. This was in connection with Wednesday. And Tim Burton was talking about he had talked about that he doesn't want to work for Disney anymore because Disney doesn't really, Disney is so, to him, Disney is so creatively bankrupt and stuff that he can't even make the kind of movies he wants to make anymore. It's like, if you try to work for Disney, you either have to get stuck doing something for Marvel, or you have to do a Star Wars show, or, you have to do a live action version of one of their animated movies, which he did Dumbo, and he said that was a horrible experience. And he was just like, yeah, he's like, I used to, he's like, I could go to Disney and pitch them something like Nightmare Before Christmas, and, they would at least take a meeting about it. He's like, but he's like, if I try to go in with anything that's unique or original or a different kind of concept, it's like, they wouldn't even let me in the room. So, and he was talking about that, and he said, I want to do stuff where I feel more creative and all this. And he said, and he mentioned this script here, he's like, he's like, I would love to do something like Ed Wood again. He's like, I love that script so much, and I love making this movie. And, and it shows this is very much a passion project for everybody involved. But, and he said, it's like, I would love to do something like Ed Wood again. Unfortunately, that's just one of those scripts you just don't get very often, But, yeah, but the fact that I thought that was interesting. And it was a bold choice, if you think about it, for, to take something that is kind of a taboo subject, which, deals with like transvestites and things like that, and to sit there and put a big budget behind it to make a big studio film. And this, this is Touchstone, which, that was a division of, this was a Touchstone film, which was a division of Disney. I think it still is. But yeah, to take a movie like that, put a huge name cast in it, to put a big budget behind it, to get, Rick Baker of all people to do your special effects and stuff. And, but this movie, it's really, really good. It's really entertaining. It's a lot of fun. The makeup that Rick Baker does for the actors looks amazing. I mean, everybody looks because it's shot in black and white, they look so much like who they're supposed. Lisa Marie does look so much like the real Vampira. And George the Animal Steele, you swear to God, you would not be able to tell the difference between him and Tor Johnson. Martin Landau, God rest him, he did a wonderful job playing Bela Lugosi. He did, the only thing is you could kind of tell, like Martin Landau, because Bela Lugosi he wasn't very tall, whereas, excuse me, Martin Landau was very tall in stature and very slender. So you can kind of tell, like, a lot of it, he's kind of doing a lot of it hunched over and everything else to kind of like look like he's smaller than he really is. But some of the dialogue that he comes up with is awesome. It's like, Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit, and stuff. And a lot of people, took them to task for that, saying that, they didn't like the fact that Bela Lugosi, the character of Bela Lugosi in the movie curses so much, because they were like, Lugosi wasn't really like that, but just like, so funny, like when they were trying to film the scene for in Bride of the Monster where, where Bela Lugosi's character gets attacked by the octopus. It's like, God damn, it's cold. And, it's like, Johnny Depp, it'll warm up once you're in it. Fuck you, you come out there, But just, yeah, the performances in this movie are good. And, this movie's so beautifully shot. the makeup, everything about this movie works. And honestly, I can't recommend it enough. And honestly, the chemistry, the friendship of chemistry between Johnny Depp and Martin Landau is phenomenal. And you do get some other great stuff. Bill Murray, unfortunately, Bill Murray's not in the movie that much, but when he's in there, he is so much fun to watch, as always. And the rest of the cast, Sarah Jessica Parker, she's great for the time she's given. Um, like I said, Patricia Arquette, she does really well playing, his wife, Edward's, wife, and everything else. And so, yeah. But yeah, I think I've run on well long enough. But Ed Wood, it is, yeah, it's not totally a horror film, but it's a movie, it's a movie about a horror filmmaker. So I would say, yeah, please give it a chance. It's a lot of fun. And don't let and like I say, don't let the whole transvestite angle put you off or anything like that. It's like, I can understand if you're like, I'm really not interested in seeing Johnny Depp wear a dress, but like I said, the way it's done so lighthearted, and it's really done with the intention of trying to try to take the edge off of it and try to make it more fun and more easy for people to enjoy it and just, go along for the ride. But Ed Wood, yeah, please, especially if you're a fan of Ed Wood's movies and everything else. The one thing I said that is definitely a standout, though, is the fact that this is probably the only movie that I'm aware of that was of Tim Burton's that wasn't scored by Danny Elfman. This time he got Howard Shore, but the reason why was at the time Danny Elfman was busy, doing all the music and creating all the songs and everything for Nightmare Before Christmas. So it makes sense, But anyway, so yeah, that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I also hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We have a different bunch of guys. Yeah, we got a different bunch of guys. A different bunch of guys. Everybody's doing really good stuff, and I'm really honored to be part of this group. And that's it. So everybody take care. Have a good night. I'll see you later.